When you look at the best defenses in NFL history, they all have one thing in common: a lockdown corner. The 2015 Denver Broncos had Aqib Talib, the 2002 Tampa Bay Buccaneers had Brian Kelly, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens had Rod Woodson, and the 1985 Chicago Bears had Leslie Frazier, someone who can limit the production of the best receiver on the other side and give the D-line and linebackers time to blitz the quarterback, or bait the quarterback into throwing a ball that may lead to an interception. Cornerbacks are fast, quick, and most times overtly confident. These qualities you'll find abundant in former NFL superstar Richard Sherman. But just how good was Richard Sherman? Sherman, or Sherm for short, grew up in Compton, California, where he attended Dominguez High School. He was not only a star on the track and football field, but he was a star in the classroom as well, reportedly earning a 4.2 GPA. Sherm would ultimately attract the attention of 5 colleges who offered him a scholarship, according to Rivals.com. These schools were Colorado, Mississippi State, Nevada, UCLA, and Stanford. He would ultimately elect to continue his academic and athletic career at Stanford University. Sherm has also been on record for saying that USC was recruiting him heavily during that period as well, but he never got an official offer. But that USC coach and Sherm would link up in the future, but more on that later. Richard Sherman arrived on campus at Stanford and made an immediate impact. He played in all 12 games and made 5 starts at receiver. He finished the season with 34 receptions, 581 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns, which was good enough to earn him conference all-freshman honors. There was no question that Richard Sherman had arrived. As a sophomore, he continued to show his promise as a rising young talent in the Pac-10, as he led the team in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. Then, during his junior year, would unfortunately suffer a season-ending knee injury after only 4 games. He was granted a medical redshirt year, which gave him an extra year of college eligibility. Sherman would return back to the team the following year in 2009 as a redshirt junior, and before the season kicked off, would have a position change. This would ultimately change the trajectory of his entire career. Sherman switched from receiving to cornerback, which he was no stranger to, as he played defense in high school. However, still a challenge to transition and perform well against Division I athletes. He would go on to finish out his college career playing corner, and in his final 2 seasons at Stanford, he would snag 6 interceptions and make a total of 112 tackles. Sherman was a key part of Stanford's success that would finish the year with a 12-1 record and being ranked number 4 in the entire nation. Now it's time to turn the focus toward the NFL draft. Sherman would get invited to the NFL Combine and had a great showing. He ran a 4.54 in the 40-yard dash, 38-inch vertical leap, and did 16 reps of 225-pound bench press. Not bad for a taller corner at 6'3". Then Richard Sherman would get drafted by the Seattle Seahawks with the 23rd pick in the 5th round of the 2011 NFL Draft, a pick that would later go down as one of the biggest steals in franchise history. He would be linked up with college coach who didn't offer him, Pete Carroll. At least they'll have more to accomplish together in the years to come. He would find playing time in every game as a rookie and even started in 10 of those games. He finished his rookie year with 55 total tackles, 4 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble. But it was only the start of something much better. In his second year, Sherman truly blossomed. He started all 16 games and finished the season with 65 total tackles, 24 passes defended, 8 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 touchdown. Good enough to earn him first-team All-Pro. A big breakout season for Richard Sherman and the Seahawks team as a whole, as they would win a playoff game before losing to the Falcons in the divisional round that year. The hype train around Sherman started to grow as he was starting to generate real buzz around the league. Opposing quarterbacks would throw to his side less and less because of his coverage and playmaking abilities. Sherman's second year in the NFL would put him on the map in the league, but his third year in the NFL put him on the map for the entire sports world. 2013 was arguably his best year. He again would put up 8 interceptions and 1 touchdown, but that year, the Seahawks would have a deeper playoff run. The Seahawks finished the season with a 13-3 record that year, and their defense allowed an average of 14.4 points per game, which ranked first in the NFL. This group became famously known as the Legion of Boom, highlighted by Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, and Byron Maxwell. Remember in the beginning of this video, we said every top defense in the league has that lockdown corner. Well, for the Legion of Boom, it was Richard Sherman. The playoff run that year was historic. And it gave us one of the most memorable moments in NFL history, when the Seahawks knocked off their divisional rival 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Aaron Andrews never saw it coming. The Seahawks, with the #1 defense in the NFL, would go on to meet the Broncos with the #1 offense in the NFL in Super Bowl 48. The Broncos that year were led by the best passing attack in NFL history, with Peyton Manning at the helm. That season, Peyton Manning threw for 5,477 yards and 55 touchdowns, with 4 different Bronco receivers having 10 or more receiving touchdowns that year, until they ran into the Legion of Boom. Super Bowl 48 would be the most lopsided game in recent memory. The game started off bad for the Broncos and continued to get worse, as the Seahawks defense absolutely pummeled Peyton Manning and the #1 offense in the NFL. From there, Sherman would continue to be recognized as the premier lockdown corner in the NFL, and the Seahawks treated him as such, giving him a contract extension. The Seahawks gave Richard Sherman a 4-year, $57.4 million deal that would keep him in Seattle for the foreseeable future and make him the highest paid corner in the game. The Seahawks would make it to the Super Bowl again the following year, but I'm sure most of us might remember how that ended. Sherman would then have an injury in 2017 that only allowed him to play in 9 games, as an Achilles tendon rupture would end his season and ultimately end his career with the Seahawks. The following year in 2018, Sherman would sign with the San Francisco 49ers. I know, ironic. His first year with the Niners wouldn't be anything spectacular, as he played in 14 games and didn't register a single interception. And his second season with the 49ers, Sherman began to return back to form, as he started in 15 games and logged 3 interceptions for a 49ers team that finished the season 13-3 and earned a trip to the Super Bowl. However, they would go on to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs, as a new star was born. The following season, Sherman would suffer more injuries and only played in 5 games, and that would be the end of his 49ers tenure. The following year in 2021, he had a brief stop with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before calling it a career. And what a career it was. So now that you've learned a little more about Richard Sherman, let's look at the stats. In 11 NFL seasons, he totaled 495 total tackles, 37 interceptions, and 116 passes defended, was a 5-time Pro Bowler, and was a 3-time first-team All-Pro, not to mention a Super Bowl champion. In the decade between 2010 and 2020, Richard Sherman was as dominant as anyone during that time. So much, in fact, he was named to the NFL's All-Decade team alongside Darrelle Revis and Patrick Peterson. Richard Sherman was so good that he's been out of the NFL for 3 full seasons at the time of this video and still has the most interceptions in the NFL since 2010 with 37. Sherman should no doubt be a Hall of Famer one day, simply the most lockdown corner our generation has seen. Even in retirement, he hasn't been too far away from the game. Like many retired athletes nowadays, Sherman has tried his hand at the media industry. He's had regular appearances on Undisputed, as well as launched his own podcast. In addition to the media activity, Sherman has also spent time doing charity work under his foundation called the Blanket Coverage Foundation, which aims to provide children from lower income neighborhoods with clothing and school supplies. Most notably, you can find Sherm as an analyst as part of the Thursday Night Football crew on Amazon Prime TV. So, when you ask yourself the question, how good was Richard Sherman? The answer should be clear and obvious. Very good. To show the respect from his peers, he was even voted the 7th best player in the entire NFL in a player-only vote in 2014. At number 7, he was the top defensive player mentioned. From an overachieving kid growing up in one of America's most crime-riddled neighborhoods to the NFL elite, Richard Sherman has definitely earned his place in the NFL Hall of Fame. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to see more NFL content similar to this, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.